Welcome to module number 20. Module number 20 of the Immediate English Spanish Translation course. This is the last of the class lessons for the intermediate, and we are getting ready to begin the advanced. Not yet. You have a couple of weeks to relax and also to review selected specific modules that I will be pointing out to you. But then even before that, you still have a homework due this coming Saturday. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. All right, we begin with today's life principle from a gentleman that I highly admire, Sir Winston Churchill. One ought never to turn one's back on a threatened danger and try to run away from it. If you do that, you will double the danger. But if you meet it promptly and without flinching, you will reduce the danger by half. Never run away from anything. Never. And that applies to everything in life. Like, for example, I'm preparing 2 classes right now. And I have a lot of work to do because everything needs to be done by the end of May. But I can just look the other way. No, instead, meet it promptly and without flinching. Now, that's one way of looking at it when you have a lot of work to do. Another way is when you have issues and problems and challenges in your life. Meet it promptly and without flinching. You may need to get advice and help and counsel, but still, whether it is a marriage problem, a finance problem, a health issue, you want to meet it promptly. And then the last illustration that I like to give you is when you sin against God. Meet it promptly. Don't run away from it. The farther and the longer you wait, the worse it will get. Meet it promptly and run to God on your knees and ask for mercy and forgiveness. He will forgive you if you do that. He's promised that. But don't run away from it. No. Now, Winston Churchill, of course, he was the Prime Minister of England during World War II, when the Nazis were about to take over. And he said, don't run away from it. No, no. You will reduce the danger by half. Never run away. Never. Great advice. Great advice. All right. Today's saying, a reconciled friend is a double enemy. Now, that's a saying, okay? I'm not saying it is true or false. It's just a proverb. And you will hear that. It has some element of truth, okay? But again, it's not necessarily written on stone, but it is a saying. Now, the Spanish equivalent, amigos reconciliados, enemigos disimulados. Ooh, you got to be wise. Ni café recalentado, ni amigo reconciliado. How about that? How about that? So there you have it in both languages. Today's expression. Now we're still dealing with side-by-side English and Spanish. So we're talking about 2 sides. Therefore, I came across this expression, a two-faced person. As I began to research, I found that there was a god in the Roman mythology known as Janus and was depicted as a two-faced person. So, how do you say that in Spanish? Persona falsa. And there's so many other ways of saying it. Some of these may be even new words to you. Bifronte, mojigato, morrongo, pegotero, a doble cara, cañero, pérfido, solapado, jugar a dos bandas, monicaco, mosquita muerta, traidor. ¿Sí? Persona falsa. Now, here's an example. I learned the hard way how two-faced Paul is. Conocí al falso de Paul de mala manera. So there you go. Two-faced person. Now, it reminded me of an expression that we have in Puerto Rico, and you may have your own depending on what country you or your parents are from. I'll share the one from Puerto Rico. El yagrumo. El yagrumo es una hoja que es verde por un lado, pero por el otro lado es media gris, plateada. Aquí no se ve muy bien en la foto, pero es gris plateada, tirando al blanco, pero no es blanca. Entonces tenemos un dicho en Puerto Rico, mira, esa persona es como el yagrumo. En otras palabras, dos caras. Por un lado es verde, por otro es plateado, blancuzco. Dos caras. All right? So I just wanted to share that one with you. El yagrumo. All right. Today's phrase, finally. Two-fisted. Two-handed. Huh. What is that? Okay. Vigoroso, fuerte. That would be one translation, depending on the context. But one that is more common, ambidextro o ambidiestro, a dos manos. Por ejemplo, mi mamá es ambidextra. Ella puede escribir tanto con la mano izquierda como con la mano derecha. Ella era pelotera cuando joven y ella podía batear del lado izquierdo como del lado derecho, también tirar la bola de un lado izquierdo o del lado derecho. Wow. And there's some good major league players that are like that. So we call them ambidextros o ambidiestros. A dos manos. Now look at this example. The player sent the ball back with a two-fisted backhand. What is that? La jugadora devolvió la pelota con un revés a dos manos. Revés, right? Send back. Bueno, that will be devolvió. That will be the backhand. Un revés o the two-fisted backhand. Un revés a dos manos. But the best way to look at it is by looking at a picture. Here you go. A dos manos. You see how she's using the racket with both hands? One hand is pointing one way and the other hand is pointing the other way. So that will be a two-handed backhand in sports, specifically tennis. All right? Great. A couple announcements. Please remember that your last translation homework for this class is due by midnight this coming Saturday. Also, remember the special performance coming up, the revelation of Jesus Christ at the White Oak Baptist Church this coming Sunday at 5 p.m. I love drama, and I don't want to miss that one. It's a brand new performance. So who knows? You may be watching something that will become well known for many, many years. And I know this gentleman, he's top-notch, a top-notch Christian actor. And it's free. All right, Lord willing, I'll be there. 5 o'clock. Where? White Oak Baptist Church, April the 26th, this coming Sunday at 5 p.m. He will be performing a solo dramatic presentation on the book of Revelation. And that's the big church across from Bob Jones University on Wadehampton Boulevard. Dr. Paulson, my good friend, he is the pastor there. Dr. Paulson. All right, you are invited as well as your family and friends. Again, the dates for the advanced course, here they are. Write them down. Make sure that you are setting them aside. You will have a break, a good break between level 1 and level 2, because I'll be teaching in Spain during that time. And then the super early bird discount for that class ends on April the 30th. That's a week from this coming, a week from today, actually, a week from today. So don't miss that opportunity to save $100 instead of $500. Instead of $500, you pay only $400. And that's the class that will really get you ready for the certification exam. You don't want to postpone that at all. All right. These classes are only taught once a year. Once a year. Great. Double-minded. That's today's topic. Now, remember the other day we were talking about a person who is double but not minded. It was a person who says one thing to one person and says another to another person. Now we're getting here closer to the root of that individual, because it is actually a heart issue. Let's take a closer look at what is meant by double-minded, which in Spanish is translated doble ánimo. Saint James, who was the brother of Jesus, actually, I mean, his dad was Joseph and his mother was Mary. He wrote the following: a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. El hombre de doblado ánimo es inconstante en todos sus caminos. Wow. Now, what he's really saying here is that the symptom of being double-minded, which is a heart issue, you see, you don't see that. You only see the symptoms, the manifestations of it. The symptoms that you can actually see is a person behaving in a way that is unstable in all his ways. But the actual root is a heart issue, being double-minded. Here we go. Double-mindedness is instability inside, which translates into behaviors that then you can see on a person. And these behaviors look like this: a person with a double standard, a two-faced person, a forked tongue, like what we said the other day, remember? Una persona con una lengua viperina. These individuals are deceitful, treacherous, impure. You can't trust them. And that's the behavior that you see. But again, we see the behavior of something bigger, deeper, which is double-mindedness in the heart of the individual. So you see a person with duplicity of allegiances, distorter of the truth. Oh my. Yeah, a distorter of the truth. They take and they change the truth. Something that is pretty frequent in the day and age that we live. Meaning that we have a lot of double-minded people in our society. Now, I hope you're not one of them, because the opposite of being double-minded is being single-minded. A person of integrity, a whole, that's W-H-O-L-E, a whole person. That will be the opposite of double-mindedness. So, the natural question is, how do you become single-minded? Which is the goal for all of us. Well, James gives us the answer. Single-minded people, first of all, are one purpose. They have one purpose, one goal, and one interest. They have full alliance and commitment to truth. They are people of conviction. Not preferences, but conviction. Now, nothing wrong with a preference, okay? I like blue. I like a good old steak, medium rare. But that's a preference. That's not a conviction. And we need to distinguish between both of them. The answer to being a single-minded, as I said, is given to us by James himself when he says, draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. There is the answer. So how do you do that? Well, you cannot do that on your own. You need to run to God to do that for you as you yield and submit yourself to Him and confess whatever wrong you have done, whatever sin you have committed. So what are the lessons learned? Double-mindedness results in stability, but single-mindedness brings stability. Double-minded individuals quiver in their decisions and actions. However, single-minded individuals are focused and determined on their aim and purpose. See the difference? Double-minded people can become single-minded individuals by asking God's forgiveness and seeking His direction. There you have it. The entire package is there for you. Any questions on double-mindedness? And again, I use that because we're looking at side by side. I'm not really saying that language is double-minded, but I wanted to show something that is double. See, that's why we spoke about a forked tongue the other day, and now we're talking about a double-mindedness. The other day we used the word bilingue. See, a person who says one thing to one person and another thing to another person. It's not honest. But then here we're looking at the heart issue, where that is coming from. And that's coming from being double-minded. Doblado ánimo en español. All right? Great. Now, I told you that I'm getting ready to teach a class, and today I spent many hours researching for that class, for one of the classes that I'm teaching. I'll be teaching the book of Romans in 2 seminaries in Spain. And as I was reading and researching today, I came across the term off limits. And then I said to myself, I wonder if my students know how to translate off limits in Spanish. So I said, let me go ahead and add that to tonight's class, off limits. And then I'll give you a sentence that deals with what I'm studying for that class that I'm teaching. So how do you say off limits in Spanish? Easy, but you have to know it. Prohibido, that's it. Prohibido. Just one word. It's forbidden, but it's one way of saying it in English. And you will see that, of course, in your translation jobs. Prohibido. Here's a sentence that I came across as I was preparing for that class that I'll be teaching on the book of Romans. A God of love must mean business when he declares a certain action off limits. We're not playing here. God is serious. Yeah, he's a God of love, but he's a God of righteousness. And even though he's a God of love, he means business when he declares something to be off limits. And we need to take that very seriously. So then in Spanish, how would you say that? Here we go. Un Dios de amor debe hablar en serio. Mean business, hablar en serio, cuando declara que cierta acción está prohibida. There you go. Ahí está la traducción, bastante directa, pero sin embargo uno no traduce las palabras. Mean business, debe hablar en serio. O hablar en serio. Must mean business, debe hablar en serio. Cuando declara que cierta acción está off limits, prohibida. All right, so I just wanted to throw that in as a freebie, as I was thinking about you when I was studying today. And I tell you, when I get ready to teach a class, I spend many, many, many hours studying. You have no idea. Oh, because I owe it to everyone, right? Great. So let's get into today's study of grammar. And that leads us to module number 20. And what we're going to do is, again, stop sharing here and look at the workbook. All right? Great. Let's do it. Okay. Oh, here we are. And this is what page? 94. 94 in your workbook. Auxiliary verbs, side by side, English and Spanish. We'll begin with English. What are those auxiliary verbs? Well, the main ones in English are to be, to have, and to do. In other words, these are verbs that do not stand by themselves. They must be accompanied by another verb. Eric is talking to Laura. See, is and then talking. Jess has already eaten dinner. So has and eaten, right? And then one with to do. Did you go to school today? So the verb to do and then go. So again, the ones in black are considered auxiliary verbs. And here's another one. Jasmine has been living in China for a year. That was actually a friend of mine from China who she was one of my doctorate classmates. I hope that she's doing well. She was from China. Jasmine. All right. Very little girl. I said, do you weigh 80 pounds? And she said, no, I weigh less than that. Very small little girl. Brilliant. Now, other modal auxiliaries. So the question is, what is a modal verb? A modal verb is an auxiliary verb that expresses necessity or possibility. Keep that in mind. They express necessity or possibility. Now, in English, we have a few of them, modal verbs. And they include the following: can, could, may, might, must, shall, should, will, would. The important thing that we need to know about these type of auxiliaries is that they cannot be conjugated. They are verbs, but you don't conjugate them. They remain the same. All right? Try to conjugate can. Okay? And so forth and so on. Okay? Say, I can. How will you say I can in past tense? See? It's just or could. Same with will. Will is only future. So those are modal verbs. And we have an equivalent verbs like that in Spanish. We'll see them in a few minutes. Examples: we must not tell the dean about this. Again, must and tell. I would expect nothing less. Would and expect. We should schedule an interview with the preferred candidate. Should and schedule. Shall we order dessert? Shall and then order. Those are the verbs. So they always accompany a main verb. All right? Now we have marginal auxiliary. Dare, need, ought to, used to. I dare not speak to the dean about this. Now I'm going to use the same sentence, okay? We need not to tell the dean about this. We ought not to tell the dean about this. The next one, I just couldn't come up with one. I used to run 7 miles every day. It's kind of funny. When I was learning English, I remember I was in my freshman year and I asked a teacher. He was not the main teacher. He was like uh, a graduate student who will help students with English. And I asked him, what about used to? What is that? Because I keep hearing people say the verb, I used to do this, I used to do that, and he couldn't tell me. Not that there was not an answer, but maybe he wasn't ready to help someone who was there learning English. Because everybody knew English, except a few of us on campus who were learning English at that time. Yeah. But here you have it. If somebody asks you, it is a marginal auxiliary verb. So I used to run 7 miles every day. By the way, you will see examples of how to translate these toward the end of today's class. All right. Keep in mind the verb in Spanish, soler. Are you familiar with that verb, soler? Yo solía correr 7 millas todos los días. Soler is one of those in Spanish. We'll see it in a few minutes. Now, when translating English to Spanish, I love this. This is so practical. Please grab it, okay? When translating English to Spanish in the subjunctive mood, the original English verb tense may be preceded by one of the followings. So this is how you identify that this is subjunctive. So the original verb tense is preceded by these words, like that. That's present subjunctive. The doctor suggested that she rest. So when you see that in English, you should have a little light bulb in your mind come up or come on, saying subjunctive, present subjunctive, present subjunctive. The doctor suggested that she rest. Hey, I propose that we take a short break. So that's with the present subjunctive. Now, with the past subjunctive, the preceding words are the following: if, as if, though, wish, suppose. Carla acts as if she were famous. And also the where, that tells you subjunctive. Some of you found that out in last translation homework. And wish, my goodness, wish tells me subjunctive. I wish I lived in New York. I wish I were in Hawaii. Eh? So again, things that are not real. Going back to where? If I were a rich man. Remember that song from Fiddle on the Roof? If I were a rich man. Things that are not real, subjunctive. Here we go. If I were a millionaire, I would set up a charitable organization. Again, it's not real. Now, what about should? Future subjunctive. Should I find your code, I will be sure to call you. Subjunctive. Future. So those are very good giveaways. In other words, they will alert you of the subjunctive. Very good section to come back to. I'm talking about coming back to it. This is what I'm going to be doing tonight. I will be sending you the entire links for all the recordings of our classes, and I will highlight in yellow the ones that I highly recommend that you watch again during the 2-week break, because it will be a great review of the intermediate class. You want to come back to the advanced class all warmed up, ready to hit the ground running. So I highly recommend that you watch again those that I will highlight for you. I will wait until Elizabeth sends me the last link, which is today's class, and then I will send you that the entire recording package for the intermediate class from module 1 through 20. All right. Ahora en español, verbos auxiliares. El principal verbo auxiliar en español es haber. Hey, tremenda lección, apréndala bien. Y ejemplos, lo que están en negro, son el verbo auxiliar haber. He estado ocupada. He estado. Él ha ido al médico. Ha ido. Tú no me has llamado. Has llamado. Ellos habían hecho demasiado ejercicio. Habían hecho. Nosotros hemos comido mucho. Hemos comido. Así que ahí está el verbo haber. Otro sentido es el haber de más el infinitivo, que expresa una obligación o necesidad, acción futura, probabilidad o certeza. Todos hemos de cooperar. Así que ahí está el verbo auxiliar haber más el infinitivo cooperar. Pronto lo has de saber. Has y saber. Creo que es algo que habremos de tener presente. Otra vez, habremos de y el infinitivo tener. El cementerio es el lugar donde todos nos habremos de encontrar. Habremos de y el infinitivo encontrar. Ahora mire este. Estamos ahora hablando en el pasado. De soportarlo mucho tiempo. De y el verbo soportar. En verdad es infinitivo, pero le estamos añadiendo el lo al final del verbo. De soportar. De soportar a Iván mucho tiempo. De soportar a Juan mucho tiempo. De soportar el dolor mucho tiempo. Un juez ha de ser una persona equilibrada y justa. Ha de y el infinitivo ser. Ahí está. Expresando obligación o necesidad, acción futura, probabilidad o certeza. Ahora bien, por favor, escuche bien porque esta es la última vez que lo voy a mencionar en todo el curso. El verbo haber es también un verbo impersonal con dos sentidos: existir, estar y darse. Este verbo es un verbo defectivo y es el único en español que no permite plural. ¿Ok? Ahora, ¿qué es un verbo defectivo? Un verbo incompleto. No tiene todas las formas de conjugación. Es decir, no se usa en todos los tiempos, modos o personas. Eso es un verbo defectivo. Por eso es que se usa la palabra defectivo, como que hay un defecto, un verbo incompleto. Algunos ejemplos: amanecer, anochecer, atardecer, llover, nevar. Uno, por ejemplo, no dice yo lluevo, él llueve, ellas llueven. No se puede conjugar en todo, es defectivo. Relampaguear, tronar, ventar, que tiene que ver con viento. Estos verbos se usan principalmente en la tercera persona del singular. Otro, que es un verbo defectivo: acaecer, acontecer, suceder. Estos verbos se usan en la tercera persona del singular y plural. Me acuerdo, mi abuelito, siempre que iba a comenzar a decir algo, comenzaba con sucede. Sucede que ayer cuando yo llegué, siempre él usaba esa muletilla, ¿verdad? Sucede. Y hoy en día hay una persona que conozco que habla así y rápidamente me trae a la mente mi querido abuelito. Sucede que yo te llamé y no me contestaste. ¿Eh? Son verbos que defectivos. Otros. Gustar, placer, atañer. En algunos de sus sentidos, estos verbos se conjugan solo en la tercera persona del singular y plural. Y el último es el que les dije hace ratito: soler, como yo solía correr 7 millas todos los días. Soler se usa más en presente de indicativo y subjuntivo y en pretérito imperfecto de indicativo. Ahora bien, regresando al verbo haber, el verbo haber, que es un defectivo también. El verbo haber no permite plural, por favor. Ya a su nivel, usted nunca debe cometer este error, que mucha gente lo comete. ¿Eh? Es un verbo impersonal que no permite plural. Por lo tanto, no podemos decir lo siguiente: habían. Nunca diga habían, sino había. ¿Eh? Hubieron. Nunca, sino hubo. Aún en plural. Habemos. Nunca, sino hay conmigo. Hayan. Sino haya. Habrán. No, sino habrá. Dice la Biblia en Primera de Pedro que en los últimos días habrá muchos falsos profetas. Asimismo en plural. Habíamos no, sino había conmigo. Hubieran no, sino hubiera. Han habido no, sino ha habido. Habrán habido no, sino habrá habido. ¿Qué? Mire estos ejemplos aquí, estos otros. Hubieran habido no, sino hubiera habido. O sea, los que están en negrecilla son los correctos. Van a haber, no diga van a haber, sino va a haber. Va a haber mucha gente presente. en la fiesta de cumpleaños. No pueden haber si no puede haber. No podrán haber si no podrá haber. No pudieron haber si no pudo haber. No deben haber si no debe haber. No deberán haber si no deberá haber. No debieron haber si no debió haber. Así que esto es el verbo haber, es un solo verbo. Pero yo le digo, mire, hasta el otro día un periodista, yo estaba leyendo un periódico en español y escribió hubieron. Yo rápido le escribí y le dije, ¿qué es eso? Un periodista. No se le puede permitir a un periodista que escriba mal cuando ellos han estudiado tanto la lengua española. ¿Eh? Así que ahí están. Una nota es una leve excepción. El hubieron lo utilizan los españoles en sus tiempos compuestos perfectos como auxiliar, solamente como auxiliar. Cuando ellos dicen ellos hubieron ido o ellos hubieron hecho mucho ejercicio. Suena raro para nosotros, pero si oye un español diciéndolo, la Real Academia lo acepta. Pero siempre como, por supuesto, auxiliar. Hubieron ido o hubieron hecho en este caso. Más nada es aceptado. ¿Alguna pregunta? Ahí está la lista. Así que eh, les recomiendo que la tengan y cada vez que tengan que conjugar el verbo haber, chequee la lista. Mire bien para que así pueda, o sea, coteje la lista para que pueda ver que lo está haciendo bien. All right. Aquí está haber qué más el infinitivo, parecido a lo que vimos hace rato, expresando necesidad u obligación. Hay que invertir más dinero, hay invertir. Hay que estudiar más para aprobar el examen, hay que estudiar. Habrá que reportar lo que ocurrió. Pero usted ve que no decimos habremos nada de eso. Habrá que reportar lo que ocurrió. No hay que forzar la máquina. Hay que forzar. Hay que ver lo que ha crecido este niño. Mire para eso. Joselito, ya está tan alto. Hay que ver lo que ha crecido este niño. Hay que ver. No, no tienes que hacer nada. Tienes que hacer. Verbos semiauxiliares en español, ahí están. Ser, estar, andar, encontrarse, hallarse, ir, llevar, quedar, seguir, resultar, tener, venir. Todos deben concordar con el sustantivo en número y género. Mire el de estar. Ramón estaba distraído. ¿Eh? En número singular, género masculino. Yo ando despistado. Ejemplo de andar. Juan debe andar entretenido. Hay que ir corriendo. Él se quedó esperándola. O sea que son, como les dije, semiauxiliares porque van con otro verbo. Él se quedó esperándola. Tienes que seguir estudiando. Oh, vengo cansado del trabajo. Los verbos ser y estar también son intransitivos, o sea que no tienen complemento directo. Esto ya lo hemos dicho. Les llamamos también verbos copulativos. Son las tres. ¿Eh? Este automóvil es de rosa. Estoy en mi casa. No hay complemento directo. Estoy listo. Ellos básicamente están dándote más información sobre el sujeto, que en estos casos, en casi todos está. implícito son las tres de que está hablando de la hora. ¿Se acuerda que dijimos que la hora va con el número, no con el sustantivo hora? ¿Eh? Este automóvil, ahí sí está el sujeto. Entonces te habla más sobre el automóvil. Es de rosa. Estoy en mi casa. O sea, yo estoy en mi casa. Estoy listo. Y aquí terminamos la sección con esta que se titula Modal Auxiliary Verbs. Ya les dije hace ratito lo que era un modal verb. ¿Se acuerda? Les dije que son, they express necessity and or possibility. Modal verbs are auxiliary verbs that express a morality, such as a necessity, a likelihood, ability. Déjeme poner esto un poquito, moverlo para acá para que salga la palabra. Okay, ability. Mission, request, capacity, suggestion, order, obligation, necessity, possibility, or advice. Advice as a noun, so it is written with a C, not with an S. Only a verb is written with an S. Modal verbs are not conjugated. We said that already. They have no tense and no person, so they never change. All the modal verbs must be followed by a main verb in the base form, except ought, which is followed by an infinitive. Y aquí lo tiene en inglés. Luego les doy un equivalente, o sea, un sinónimo, y luego en español. Can, could, ahí está. En la manera correcta, ¿verdad? Can en el presente y could en el pasado. Ahí tiene diferentes equivalentes y la manera de escribirlo en español. May, present, might, past. Lo que los sinónimos y la manera en español. Must, equivalentes, manera en español. Y usted los puede leer. Shall, present, should, past. ¿Ok? Inglés, español. Will, present, would, past. Inglés y en español. All right. Aquí le dice cuándo usar el shall. En inglés moderno, no inglés de Shakespeare. In statements about the future, making suggestions, asking for assent. For example, shall we go for pizza? Shall we go to the park? Asking for assent. Moral obligation, commands, promises, and so forth. We don't say, will we go for pizza? We don't say that. Ought to, indicating obligation. Y el potencial simple, debería, o imperfecto de subjuntivo, debiera. Ahí está todo en este cartelón. And they used to, esto es lo que el profesor no me pudo decir. Expressing habitual activity in the past. I used to run 7 miles, indicating former state or habit. En español, se usa el imperfecto de indicativo para traducir, expresando actividad habitual en el pasado, indicando un hábito o estado de situación en el pasado. Yo corría o yo solía correr 7 millas. All right. Vamos a mover esto porque aquí están los ejemplos. practical application. Antes de entrar a los ejercicios, ¿alguna pregunta? It's pretty much straightforward. Ejemplos con can. I can jump. Puedo brincar o saltar. El yo se puede aceptar para énfasis. We could go to the beach tomorrow. Podríamos ir a la playa mañana. ¿Verdad? Como una sugerencia. May. It may rain today. Puede que llueva hoy. Might. You might have let me know sooner. El might se usa para el pasado. Podrías habérmelo dicho antes. Shall. Shall we go to the cinema tonight? Una sugerencia. ¿Vamos al cine esta noche? Should. Tres diferentes traducciones en español. Maybe you should go to the meeting tonight. Tal vez deberías ir a la reunión esta noche. Tal vez debas ir. Tal vez debieras ir. ¿Cuál vas a escoger? Depende de la que te dicte el contexto. Tal vez deberías ir a la reunión esta noche. Tal vez debas ir. Tal vez debieras ir. Will. The elderly will sacrifice for their grandchildren if they have to. Los mayores se sacrificarán o se sacrifican, por favor, por sus nietos si tienen que hacerlo. Fíjese que no dice se sacrificarán, porque ya se entiende que es en el futuro en español. This is subtle, subtle. The elderly will sacrifice for the grandchildren. Los mayores se sacrifican por sus nietos. Esta es una que yo marcaría para que luego regrese. Si el contexto te indica que es algo que se supone que hicieran, así que no es un will de futuro, sino un will de se sobreentiende, se supone que esto sea lo que sea. That the elderly will sacrifice for their children if they have to. Ahí está el if. Eso te indica que es una posibilidad. Así que no se traduce sacrificarán, sino los mayores se sacrifican por sus nietos si tienen que hacerlo. ¿Alguna pregunta sobre ese? Muy bien. Would. We would take walks by the river. Aquí está el solíamos. Solíamos pasear por el río. También podríamos decir, we used to take walks by the river. Pero en este caso es otro que también es sutil, subtle. We would take walks by the river. Hablando del pasado. En el contexto. Así que ahí va, solíamos pasear por el río. Ought to. You ought to drive more carefully. Deberías conducir con más cuidado. Debieras conducir con más cuidado. Y el used to, he used to ride his bike, but now he drives. Él solía andar en bicicleta, ahora va en automóvil. Así que miren el ejemplo de would con el ejemplo de used to. Ambos son del pasado. ¿Eh? Porque este es el contexto que te estamos indicando. That's all, folks. Unless you have a question. Again, I'll be sending you Not tonight, because I'll be waiting for Elizabeth to send the link for tomorrow. So then as soon as I get the link, I will add it to the entire list for modules 1 through 20 of the entire course. And then I will highlight the ones that I recommend that you watch again during the 2-week break. All right, so let me go back to the slides here, and then we'll close the class. All right, right here. Let's see what I had next. Oh, yeah. Review the selected modules from the intermediate course. But don't forget that you also have translation homework due by midnight this coming Saturday. You've been doing much, much, much better. Just be careful with the accents, please. I don't want to take off any 5 points for any accents. God bless you, and we'll see you again. When? I forgot. That's May, coming up May the 12th. I'll send you a reminder later. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.